you've been speaking to someone who is on the board of one of the clubs involved. So what can you tell us?
Yes, some very interesting information that we have been able to get in the last few minutes. Now, as you said, the person we've been speaking to, he can't reveal his identity for obvious reasons, but he is on the board of one of these 6 Premier League clubs who are breaking away to join this new European Super League. What he's telling us is that there are several board members at these 6 clubs who are opposed to joining the Super League, but they feel they do not have the power to stop it. So some splits emerging within the boards of these clubs who are breaking away. But important to state that the owners are still fully committed to breaking away and joining the Super League. We've also been told that the owners were fully expecting a backlash. They knew that their plans were going to be opposed and opposed vociferously, but we're being told, to be honest, they're not that worried about bad PR at the moment. And we're being told also that in general, the owner's view is this, and this is a quote from a board member at one of the 6 clubs. Our primary job is to maximise our revenues and profits. The wider good of the game is a secondary concern. So there we have it from the mouth of a board member at one of these 6 clubs. What they're interested in is profit and revenue, the wider good of the game a secondary concern. We're also being told that these owners want less football, not more football. In fact, we're being told they would be secretly delighted if their players were banned from playing in competitions like the World Cup and the European Championships. They want their players to play less football, not more football. They don't want to give their players away to England and Scotland and Italy and Wales to play in competitions because they feel that they're not being rewarded sufficiently. And of course, there's a risk that their players are injured on international duty. We're also being told if the clubs were allowed to stay in the Premier League, they would focus on midweek Super League games. And it is a real possibility that they would field weakened teams for domestic Premier League games at the weekend. The example that was used to me was, for instance, if Manchester United are playing Real Madrid on a Wednesday night, in that game against Real Madrid in the Super League, they will field their strongest side. Then, for instance, if they were playing West Brom or Burnley on Saturday, then of course they would make changes because that game wouldn't be as important for them. So that is another big concern. Also, we're being told that companies in the US and Saudi Arabia have been sounded out about buying the broadcast rights to the new league. I asked this board member if civil war had now broken out in football. He said to me, this is not civil war, it is a nuclear war. Also, some of the other 14 Premier League clubs who are not involved in this breakaway want the 6 breakaway clubs to be sanctioned immediately, and they believe the sanctions should include suspension from the current Premier League season. So some of these other 14 clubs so unhappy with what is happening that they want these 6 clubs to be kicked out of the Premier League immediately. One club owner has said privately that he would be prepared to leave the Premier League if they had to. So he is saying, look, the riches on offer are so great. This is the future. Even if we were to be kicked out of the Premier League, we would still just focus on joining this new European Super League. The owners of the clubs involved are totally committed. The breakaway is being driven by the Glazers and Ed Woodward and JP Morgan. Several of these American owners, we're being told, still cannot understand why we have relegation in English football. The quote is being used, they just can't get their heads around the concept. And finally, Chelsea and Manchester City had major reservations about joining, but in the end, they decided they could not afford to be left playing in a weakened Premier League and a weakened Champions League. So that is just an insight from a board member at one of these 6 clubs who are breaking away about the thinking behind the breakaway and what they will do next.
Wow, great insight. Thanks ever so much, Kaveh.